Okay, next up. Next up is going to be Lori Lowenthal Marcus, the founder of Z Street, and a very impressive year she's had, which we hope to talk about later this week too. But
okay, I guess it makes sense to start with I am one of the few American Jews who said up front they supported Trump for president in the general election. He was not my first choice, but in the general election I absolutely did, and I supported him because of the things that I believed he would do that, in my opinion, was good for the Jews, whatever that means. What it means to me is good for the Jewish state, good for Israel, because American Jews, I don't think, are that different, as a general matter, from the rest of the population in terms of what a president would do that they see as positive. So the real defining issue for me was Israel, and the reason I felt comfortable supporting Donald Trump in the general is not because I think he's a brilliant man by any stretch of the imagination, not because I think he's not a bore, he is, not because I think he's not crude, he is all of those things, but when he named as his advisor David Friedman and Jason Greenblatt, and I read the platform that they issued, it's about the only document that I have ever seen that I haven't written, with which I agreed completely on just about, really just about every single point. So I ultimately to some extent became somewhat friendly with David Friedman, and I knew this was a man of real substance who believes what he believes, who's not going to be swayed, and had a very strong influence over Donald Trump. And if this was a guy who had control over the Israel platform within Donald Trump's inner circle, I was good with that. And in fact, David Friedman did become the U.S. ambassador to Israel and has followed through on most of the issues that he said were important to him and are important to me as a strongly Zionist American Jew. So those things are very good. That's what made me feel comfortable to begin with. Am I completely comfortable with what comes out of Donald Trump's mouth and out of his phone? No. But I will say, I don't know that many people that I'm really completely comfortable with who have the ego to run for president or elected office in almost any position. So I am not going to worry overly about his instability. Does he have ballast? Yes. He has David Friedman, and we haven't said it before, but Nikki Haley at the UN. Wow. She's amazing for pro-Israel Jews. She's fantastic. That is the voice of the administration, unfiltered by ridiculous tweeting. Those positions are exactly what I want from the United States of America in terms of being the best friend it can be to the Jewish state of Israel. So I'm still on board believing that Trump, by and large, is good for, and again, I'll say pro-Israel Jews. I'm a Jew, and there are lots of American Jews. We share the same, what we call our religion, but not a whole lot else. I am not a Tikkun Olam Jew. I believe in the rest of that phrase, which means, for out, coming back here and owning here, being here. So, am I embarrassed by him? If he's really good for Israel, does that mean people are going to start hating Jews? Well, then let's stop ever supporting Israel, because then people will hate us because we're Jews. Enough with this mentality. We have for too long put our trust in politicians who say, oh yes, they're good for us, and they go to AIPAC and they support foreign aid for Israel, and that's it. They've checked off all the boxes. That's all they have to do for us. And that's not enough as far as I'm concerned. So I'm not worried that he's not being completely diplomatic. We've had years of diplomacy and gotten nowhere. I am glad that he makes an assertion and so far has stuck by with the really important ones. Yes, we're moving to Jerusalem. Is the embassy to Jerusalem, is that something he should have coordinated with the rest, what, of Europe, of the EU? We'd never get here. So good, let's lead. It's a good thing. I don't have a problem. I'm not saying he's brilliant. I'm not saying he's the ideal candidate. But given our choices, he's pretty darn good. And I'm okay saying out loud, despite the revulsion of my children, yes, I am okay with Donald Trump. I just don't see why we all worry about, but going for, it's Richard's, it's too good, it's going to be bad for us. Well, bad is really bad for us too. Let's try the too good being bad. I'm okay. So those are kind of my points. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Tell us about your children. Like what's their...
Why don't they support Donald Trump?
Yeah, like what? Yeah.
I think because they're embarrassed. They're embarrassed.
But who do they support?
Right, so who do they support? Everybody, all of my 4 children. There are 2 of my 4 children who one unfriended me on Facebook because I wrote some good things or posted some good articles about Donald Trump.
But you're still friends in the real life, right?
We are still friends, but we agreed not to discuss it. And why? It's really because of the embarrassment of being associated with a bore. He's a bore. He is. I mean, how about this stuff? Oh my God, with Stormy, whatever her name is, or the ridiculous hats that they wore in response to a comment that he made in a locker room. For God's sake, he wasn't president. If you forgave Bill Clinton for doing what he did in the Oval Office, why are you complaining in horror about what he made off with an unknown mic in a locker room? I just think, it's embarrassing, but I don't know too many guys who haven't at one time or another, and women in their own lovely ways, haven't said some repulsive things that are embarrassing. So that's why, not because of his, but he's moving the embassy. Oh, okay, Mom, but then he said he did this terrible thing. So Charlottesville, and I don't like, this is another point I wanted to get back to about dividing the Jewish community. We're already divided. We are divided when you come out strongly for Israel, or you say, yes, Black Lives Matter, of course they do, but so do Blue Lives. I support the police. We're divided. We really, really are. And the more pronounced I become in my support of Israel and my understanding of the history and what is real and what isn't, and clarifying what was fake news, give the land back to the Palestinians. What do you mean back? What does that mean? You don't know what you're talking. Let's talk about history. The more comfortable I am, the less I have friends who are in the mainstream Jewish American community that can talk about anything other than Mazal Tov on your child's wedding, or that's, a nice dress. But there's not a whole lot else that's really important to me that I share with the rest of the, the at-large, the J Street American Jewish community. So there is a divide. It is unfortunate. But if more of us, I don't know who else is with me here, but if more of us were to say, I'm glad what other country in the world doesn't get to declare their own capital? Why is that okay with you? Oh my God, they're going to be angry at us. That's the Jews on the firing line. Don't say the Shema, they'll get angry at us. When your back is against the wall, go for it. So I'll end with that. Go ahead.
What do you think of the recent Pew poll about Democratic and Republican sympathy of Israel, and what do you attribute those factors to?
Look, the parties have been moving further and further apart. I don't remember the exact numbers when it tells.
27% sympathy for Israel over Palestinians for Democrats and 70-something for...
Right, so I think that there were, as I recall, there were a couple of categories that had to do with somewhat, mostly, so it wasn't quite as stark, but for sure over the past 15 years, there has been a flip in terms of the Republicans, as a general matter, being more supportive of Israel than Democrats moving further away. What I think about the next, and this is actually responsive to your question, the next presidential election, I think we're going to have a far left Democrat, and the Republican, whoever it is going to get even more of a percentage of the popular vote, because it's really scary. These sanctuary cities are really scary to live in. I now live in, when I don't live here, and part of the time we live here and part of the time we live outside of Philadelphia, and Philadelphia has a new district attorney who was funded by Soros, who doesn't believe in incarceration. Really? And he's spent his entire legal career prosecuting the police for mistreatment of criminals. Who's going to go shopping in Philadelphia at night? It's not going to happen. I mean, they're going to feel it in their pockets, and they're not going to be happy about it. So, yes, it's getting more divisive. The Democrats, the party, sadly, is being taken over more and more by the further and further left progressives, the illiberal liberals. And for whatever reason it is, the Republicans, I mean, we saw it in the GOP platform this time around. They were really strongly supportive of Israel. It was written partly by David Friedman in the platform and Alan Clemens from South Carolina. And the Democrats were completely not interested in being supportive of the things that matter to me as a Jew. So I think it's going to continue for a while until there's a check. I think there will be a correction. I don't know what that will be. Any other questions?
Quick question. So I regret not mentioning Nikki Haley in my introduction because she
I'm
goes.
so glad you
But again, back to your kids. What do they think of somebody like her? Because she doesn't have the same negatives that Trump has.
Right. So that's a great. I'm really glad you did ask that question, because my kids do think Nikki Haley is great. They're not embarrassed by her. But I have a very good friend who is married to a former well-known neocon, and she's from the Democratic Party, supporter, liberal, kind of American Jew. But she's been influenced by her husband to some extent. So she wrote on her Facebook page, next time around, Nikki Haley, and I forget who she had as the vice president, someone on the left, and all of her liberal American Jewish friends. Nikki Haley, she's disgusting. She's been bought out by Trump. How could you support her? She was shocked. So I think my kids are still good with Nikki Haley, but there are plenty who just the infection of Trump. You read so many articles by people from the not far right. You'll still see even a support of Trump's positions, but not Trump. There will be a paragraph in there. There will be a sentence in there. I did it myself. I called him a bore. I called him all those names. A little bit of virtue signaling, but none of us can get away from it. We have to say, we're not completely on board, but who is completely on board with anybody? I mean, it just shows you're not thinking if you really think every position is terrific.
Okay. Thank you very much.